All right, so let's go ahead and talk about factoring trinomials. There's some definite patterns to it that make it a little bit easier to do. And here are our steps. First, let's recognize this, that all trinomials follow this pattern, ax squared plus bx plus c, where a is the coefficient of the x squared terms, b is the coefficient of the x term, and c is the constant. Okay, so in this one, 3x squared plus x plus 5, a would be 3, b would be 1, and c would be 5. Okay, so just to recognize that. So let's take a look at an example. Here are our steps. So first, we're going to check for the GCF. We're going to multiply a times c. We're going to find factors of that product that add to b, and then we're going to split middle term, box, and factor. Okay, so let's go through an example. Here's my example, 2x squared plus 10x plus 12. First, I'm going to check for a GCF. Okay, I have a greatest common factor of 2 and all that. Okay, so I write that outside, put my 2 out there, and then I've got this x squared plus 5x plus 6 inside. Okay, so my a in this case in x squared plus 5x plus 6, my a would be 1 because it's implied, my b would be 5, and my c would be 6. You can see I wrote those right there. A is 1, c is 6, okay, and c is 6. So my next step, multiply a times c. Now that's pretty easy in this case, right? Because 1 times 6 is 6. So now I'm going to find factors of 6 that add to 5. All right, my factor pairs, and I usually write it like this, kind of off to the side. So I'm finding factors of AC, right, that add to B, which is 5. So my factor pairs for that are 1 and 6, and they add to 7, so that's not our buddy. And the other factor is 2 and 3, which add to 5. So these are my factors, okay? And I'm going to do that, I'm going to use those factors to split my middle term. So I keep carrying that 2 down, so I've got that 2 on the outside, some parentheses, and now I've split my middle term up. So now I rewrite it as x squared, I just bring that down from here, x squared, and I bring down my 6, and now I've split my middle term 5x into 2x and 3x. So then I box it up, okay? The other day in class I showed you guys this method, the Lucian method. So I write my first term here, my last term there, and then I just put the 2 factors however I want, right there. Okay? Doesn't matter which order. Then I look in each direction. Doesn't matter which order I look. Let's look here first. Common factor between 6 and 2x is 2. Okay? Common factor between 3x and x squared is x, looking at it this way. Common factor between x squared and 2x is x. Common factor between 3x and 6 is plus 3. So then I can write it in factored form. So I'm still bringing down that greatest common factor from the first line, the 2. Okay? And then I look along the sides and I say x plus 3 and x plus 2. So those are my factors. And I can always check by multiplying it back out. Okay? And you can do it whichever way you want, but I can distribute that in, and I would say 2x plus 4 times x plus 3. That ends up being 2x squared plus 2x times 3 is 6x plus 4x plus 12, which ends up being 2x squared plus 10x plus 12. And that is my start, 2x squared plus 10x plus 12. So I did it right. Check. Let's do one that's just a little bit simpler, and we'll go through the steps here. Any common factors? No, not in between x squared, 2x, and negative 15. Okay. So my next step. So no common factors. Check. So now I'm going to multiply a and c and find factors that add to b. So my a here, my a is 1, my b is 2, and my c is negative 15. Okay, so I'm going to multiply AC. A times C equals negative 15. Okay, so now I'm looking for factors of negative 15 that add to positive 2. Factors of negative 15 that add to positive 2. Well, factors of negative 15 are negative 1 and positive 15, negative 3 and positive 5. And then I could also switch that around so it's 3 and negative 5 and positive 1 and negative 15. Okay. This add to positive 14. This pair adds to positive 2. This pair adds to negative 2. This pair adds to negative 14. So here we go. So this is our buddy right here. We can do our box. And I'm going to put x squared up here. I'm going to put negative 15 down here. And then I'm going to use negative 3x and 5x. And now I can look in all directions. Common between negative 3, let's look here. We'll use a different color here. Common between negative 3x and negative 15 is negative 3. Common between x squared and 5x is x. Common between x squared and negative 3x is x. And common between 5x and negative 15 is positive 5. So then my factors would be x plus 5 and x minus 3. All right, so there we've got that one factored. Okay. I'm going to give myself just a little bit of room. Sorry, I didn't give you guys more room. So let's start with our top of our list. Here's another one. Okay. Are there any greatest common factors in this trinomial? Well, yeah, there's an x. See how there's x's in all of them? So I'm going to factor out an x, and I'm just going to write that off to the side. Okay. And when I factor that out, I'm going to divide each of these. So x cubed divided by x is x squared. Positive 7x squared divided by x is positive 7x. And 12x divided by x is plus 12. Now I'm going to factor inside here. Once again, I multiply a times c. My a is 1. My b is 7. And my c is positive 12. Okay? So 1 times 12 is 12. And I'm looking for factors of 12 that add to 7. Well, I happen to be pretty good at this, and I know that 12 is the same thing as 3 times 4. And that adds to positive 7. So that's our guy. So I'm going to say x squared plus, and 12 down here, and then I'm going to say 3x and 4x, okay? And then I can check all my dimensions. 3 is common between 3x and 12. X squared and 4x is common, is x. Common between 12 and 4 is positive 4. And in this direction, x squared and 3x, the common is x. So my answer here would be x plus 3, x plus 4. All right, so I want you to try a few of these, and I'm going to put up all the answers here in just a second. So you might pause it here for just a little bit and kind of look at all the answers. They're all here, and you can see some of the work that I've done where I boxed it out each time. Okay, but But here's the answer for this one, right there. The answer, and you can see that here's all my work where I found my factors of 12 that add to 8. Okay. Then here's the answer to this one. Actually, you couldn't factor this because there are no factors of 1 that add to 3. So after I did my greatest common factor, I was done with this one. Okay. Here, once again, is a pretty involved one. So I multiplied a times c and got negative 20. Okay. And then I found factors of negative 20 that add to positive 8. And those would be 2 and 10. Split my middle term and got my 2 factors. So here's the answer to this one. And then this one's pretty simple once again, and we actually did it up there where you where I found factors of oops. I made an assumption. What happens with that is, and there are no factors of 4 that add to 7, so can't factor anymore. Okay. And that'll do it for this video.